What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the castle. That's Cardstock Afterlock. I'm Chief Justice 06, joined by my main man, Toe Tag and Tambo. Always, yet again, our very special guest, one of our favorite people in the industry, Geoff Wilson from SportsCardInvestor.com. Welcome aboard. Glad to have everyone here. Geoff, how are you doing on this beautiful evening?
I'm great, man. The sports card market continues to be hot. So as long as cards are going up, then there's lots to talk about, and I'm a happy guy.
Awesome. Tambo, how are things in Canada? You know, I'm always going to check on the weather. What is going on?
Well, hey, people in the States are getting this weather now too, apparently. But yeah, we're still freezing up here like always, man. But to Geoff's point, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in the industry right now, I think. And this one's going to be a good one. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, we've got Geoff on here, but we're going to talk about this every show. And that is making sure you get over to sportscardinvestor.com and get in on this beautiful content, get in on the magnificent tool that is Market Movers. If you're watching this video, put in promo code Grinders as you go to that website. You're going to get 20% off your first payment. That's 20% off the first month, or 20% off the first year. Always going to recommend the first year to get the most bang for your buck. Geoff will be demonstrating some of the beauties of Market Movers today as we go along. And we're going to get this show started. Head on over to sportscardinvestor.com. First topic, guys, and this is a good one for me because I think, you know, we've got people on both sides of the industry in this, and I think we see value in it, and then we see how you can maybe burn a hole in your pocket with it. We're going to talk about two separate things, but the first thing we're going to talk about is why do we get into card breaks? And we've talked about this briefly before in some of the high-end stuff, but you can get in breaks on Prism. You can get in breaks on Status, which is coming out now. You can get in breaks on Panini Certified, which is coming out now. Geoff, why do people want to get into breaks in the first place?
Well, so first of all, you know, getting into breaks, and this is whether you break a box on your own or you buy into an online break. Generally, they're not good for investing. You know, they're more for fun, right? It's more of a you're hoping for the big hit, and then it's a big boom reward for being in it. But most of the time, it's not great, you know, in terms of the return you get. But the reason why I like doing online breaking in particular is because it's a way to whet the appetite of wanting to break open boxes without actually having to commit to the full price of the box. So when a new product comes out, like for example, you mentioned Prism Football, which came out not too long ago, or you got Prism Basketball, which is going to come out here in March. So we're only a few weeks away. When that product comes out, you may not want to drop, you know, I don't know what a Prism Basketball hobby box is going to cost, probably at least $1,500 right out the gate, right? Ooh. You may not want to drop $1,500 on opening your own, but you may be really excited about it. So a great way to do that is to get into one of these random team online breaks or something like that. It might only be $50 for a slot, but you still get that fun and excitement of getting to see the box broken, and hopefully you'll get lucky, get a good team, pull a good rookie, and be, you know, do really well as a result.
Absolutely. Tambo, over to you, my friend. I know you break a little bit. I break a little bit.
Yeah.
What say ye, sir?
Well, you know me, I'm a little bit of a gambler. To Geoff's point, it's not always the best investment, you know, from an investing standpoint. Maybe it's not the best, but there's a lot that goes with it. He mentioned a couple key points. One, sometimes the box comes out sooner. Some guys in these team break groups will have a hobby box before anything even hits the shelf for hobby boxes, or the retail side is down the road. So you can get in, be one of the first to get the card. I love, you know, the DFS aspect in me loves the sweat equity. So to Geoff's point, again, you're not just sweating what the end result is. That's what you have to wait to get to. First, you got to see which teams you get. You're sweating for, you know, that maybe it's the Pelicans to try and get a Zion. Then if you get them, it's like, okay, now is there a Zion in the box? And then what did the end result look like on return on investment for what you had to put in? But I love the cost savings of it. The double-edged sword, I guess, is a little bit to, you know, again, what Geoff was just mentioning, I think is where sometimes, you know, that is the downside of it. It's you sweat it, you get the Pelicans, you're like, okay, I'm good now. I hit the first thing. Then you're like, okay, where's the Zion? Oh, we're onto that last pack magic we're looking for, and it's not there. So it kind of goes in reverse against you, but it's definitely a lot of fun. And, you know, everybody is used to buying things like Powerball, lottery tickets, or things like that. It's kind of the fun in it, right? You're not expecting to necessarily hit a monster. You'd like to, but you're in it just to have some fun and get into the action and then some of the other reasons we mentioned before.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely think that's why I get into it. And essentially, you end up kind of making some friends if you break kind of with the same breaker a lot. You have some people in the chat that you kind of connect with. Maybe you talk offline and voila, now you've got another friend in the industry that may be looking out for you. I saw something really cool online. One of our guys, Rhino, we know Rhino's always in the streets buying cards, in our Discord here with RotoGrinders. But, one of the guys that grades in Ohio, he's trying to complete this Genesis set, a mosaic, the mosaic Genesis. I guess that he's trying to get all 62. I think it's 62 cards of Genesis. I could be wrong. Let's just go with 62. And he just kind of put a feeler out there like, hey, if anybody's got a Genesis, I'm looking for one. And guess what? Rhino says, hey man, I've got this. I can't remember who the player was, but he's like, I've got this Genesis. You can grab it from me. And the guy said, how much? He said, no, man, don't even worry about it. I'll just ship it out to you. And so that's, I think, the beauty of the hobby as you break with people and, you build these types of relationships, that's what it's all about. And on the other side of it, in terms of breaking, I think we've got, obviously there's a couple different types of breaks, but let's just go with standard stuff like Prism. You've got like the pick your team, which is obviously going to cost you a little bit more. And then you've got the random team. Now, I'm more of a fan of the random team. I always want the random team because I can get into it a little bit cheaper and I can spend, maybe $120 and get 3 teams randomly, versus, trying to pay $500, in some spots where it was for the Pelicans last year, $500 for the Grizzlies last year.
Yeah.
So I think, for me, I kind of like the random team. In fact, one of my best breaks last year was on a random. I got really lucky and got the Grizzlies, I got Toronto, and I got Chicago. And while Kobe White, I know his card prices aren't flying off the shelf, I think I ended up with 2 Kobe's, ended up with the Ja out of that one, ended up with, I think, Brandon Clark, Pink Mosaic Camo. It was just really cool to kind of get into it. So that's kind of, I think what the big deal is for breaks. And then, you touched on this already, Geoff, but here was another point that we wanted to talk about is the difference in break prices versus that hobby or retail box, right? Because essentially, if you've got the money, you can get a hobby or retail box off eBay, from somebody, maybe random off Facebook. But like you said, you're going to have to pay, you might have to pay $1,800 by the time you've gotten to it. So what's kind of your perspective on that, in terms of breaking versus the retail, especially when you're getting into the pick your team category?
Well, if you're doing a pick your team, there's some people who really work hard on kind of outsmarting the pick your team pricing. So, they're like, I remember last year, or I guess it was 2 years ago, that there was a period of time when like I knew a guy who was buying all these Phoenix Suns breaks because he felt like Aiden's cards were like way undervalued compared to obviously, Trey and Luka and other guys that year. And Phoenix was just kind of being ignored in all of these breaks. So you could come into these pick your team breaks and you could buy up Phoenix slots for very little. And he was getting a ton of Aiden cards as well as Devin Booker and other players. So you can be a little bit strategic, in how you approach those types of things if you want to do pick your team. But yeah, I mean, look, if you want to drop the cash to hold the product and open up the box and have all those cards, great. If you want to just kind of dip your toe in it and get the thrill of it, but not fully commit, then, a break can be a great way to do it.
Tambo, same question.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the same for me. The pick your team is good in that sense. I'm not as big of a fan. I'm sort of with you, Will, on the random side of it, because I like to get a little more. I actually like when the breakers, and I know we've got our own people we go to, but I like when they break it out and actually separate like the last slot. So the first 20 teams are random, the last 10 are locked. So it's fun for everyone. Everyone gets a quote unquote good team. That to me makes it a little more fun. And then if you get 2 main entries, whether you get in, we didn't get into ways you can get into that. Maybe that's a story for another day. But if you get, a mini, you buy a main, then you get a mini that gets into the main, you can end up with 2 teams. And you talked about a great break. I ended up with 2 in the main one time on a box of Select hobby. And I got Pelicans and the Grizzlies. And I picked up, a Ja base concourse, a Zion base concourse, and these are at PSA right now, and a Ja silver in there,
My
all in the same
goodness,
break.
man.
And that was like
Jesus.
beginner's luck. It was one of my first ever breaks, but that maybe is why I'm a little biased to it. But to Jeff's point, and I think this is one I also have a negative story I learned the hard way. When the football stuff first came out, I bought the Bengals, trying to be, big shot guy. Let's go get the Burrow before everyone else does. I'm telling you, it was a 500 card break and there wasn't a single Burrow in the break, which will blow your mind, but it was absolutely true. And I paid a lot for that team. Meanwhile, other folks in the break focused on the Raiders to get some Henry Ruggs and some Cowboys to get some Lamb cards and things like that. And they made out like a bandit, and they got in for 1/3 of the cost of me to pick up all of these rookie cards. So there is ways to target it still. It again comes back just like anything, know your strategy going in, but that's what makes it fun, man. Again, it's part of the entertainment experience. Not a lot of people are going to movie theaters and buying popcorn and pop these days. You can get around it to, your computer, get on YouTube, whatever it might be, the site that you go to break, Facebook, whatever it is, and get into one of these things and have just as much fun for me.
Good. And listen, we'll give some people some credit here. Geoff, I think I know, who you use. I think I know who you've used in the past and probably some other guys as well. But just kind of give the people at least, one or two of the breakers that you use that you trust the most.
I mean, there's a lot of great ones out there. I personally love Layton Sports Cards. They're one of the biggest. Layton, Layton. Mojo Breaks, great. Jaspy's Case Breaks is a good one. Live Box Breaks. There's a lot of different ones. But I think if you go with, some of the larger, well-known ones, they're more likely to fill the breaks, do the breaks on time, that kind of thing, which is important. It's important to me. If I'm buying into a break, I want to know, yeah, this thing's going to fill. I'm actually going to be able to watch the box break here, when I'm supposed to tonight.
Yeah, Tambo, same question.
Yeah, I don't have specific sites that I go to. I typically will break through guys in Facebook groups in Canada. I'm
that's
looking
cool.
Yeah, and I think that's a different aspect to put a spin on it, because everything Geoff said is very true, and what you want, you want to know that they're going to fill it. And then of course the trust is already there. These are bigger name sites that he's mentioning that of course you can go out and go with them. I'll have to check them out myself. I'm all for it. And hey, there's that beginner's break luck that you try out a different break group and boom, there's your cards, right? You've seen it plenty of times. I know I have. But for me, it came down to trust. And I know you've got the same thing you're about to talk about here as well, Will. But I just go with who I know. And I like this, the big thing for me too is the speed they ship it out. So I like that they'll fill up the break, but let's get the cards out to us. I know that it's a privilege to be able to get in and find an access point and get your money in and do your thing. But for them, it's the same in reverse. It's like running a business, right? You still got to come through on the customer service end. So once you find that one that you like and trust, that's who I recommend sticking with.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's no secret. Everybody knows I use Mikey B cards. I actually am going to try. I did check out Mojo because Geoff brought it up, and I forgot about Layton, so I am going to check them out. But Mikey's kind of my guy, and shout out to Mikey. Mikey had some health stuff going on, but he's back breaking now, which is fantastic. So great to have you back, Mikey. And that's who I use. We're going to shift gears here a little bit, Geoff, and this is something I'm actually really excited about today. I've already seen some of the stuff you're going to show, so I'm almost jumping out of my socks here. Vintage, Geoff. Vintage cards are continuing to go up. I mean, it's absurd, really, because, it feels like just 6 months ago, I could go out and pick up any vintage card I wanted, PSA 9 or 10, and it just felt like I was robbing the bank. Well, people have, gotten smarter, it seems, in the past few months. And the prices are through the roof, Geoff. How do you feel about this? Where do you think we're going in terms of vintage long-term? Because it's kind of a part of the hobby that was kind of in the closet because everybody was on Prism and Mosaic and all these new products. But people are starting to find their way back to 96 Topps, back to 89 Fleer. Like, what's going on in the vintage market?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, first of all, for the purposes of this conversation, obviously we're kind of considering vintage, like, the players who aren't currently playing, you'll have some,
thank you. Yeah.
You'll have some, hobby enthusiast out there who will say, well, vintage really means the cards from the the 70s, the 60s and before. Right. But of course, we're talking about guys like even Kobe and Shaq and Michael Jordan and all of these players who have exploded in value over the course of the last few months. It's absolutely incredible. I saw a little bit. I saw some of it coming. I wish I had seen more of it coming and doubled down more. But the player who really stood out to me was Kobe's cards. Back in November, You could have bought Kobe, and in fact I did. I bought several Kobe Topps rookie cards, PSA 10, his base 1996 Topps PSA 10 rookie card for less than $2,500. I bought over Thanksgiving week. Very specifically, I know this because I was on vacation with my family, and every single morning I woke up first in the family before the wife was up, and I would go on my computer and I would look at auctions and buy it nows. And I spent that whole week buying up a whole bunch of Kobe cards. And my wife would come out and she'd be like, "What are you doing? Are you doing work?" Yeah. I'm like, "Well, kind of. I'm buying Kobe. I'm trying to find good deals on Kobe cards." And those cards that I was buying up Thanksgiving week for just under $2,500, they have now eclipsed $10,000 for that exact same card, what they're currently selling for. So that's a 4x return over the course of about 3 months. But that is true with Kobe. That's also true with a ton of other players. And we've heard obviously the Michael Jordan record prices and everything like that. But I think what's interesting is if I look at market movers, and I know we can bring that up on the screen here over the last 60 days, it's actually some of the guys who are maybe one slight tier below the GOAT status guys, like Kevin Garnett, for example, who's actually leading the way with the biggest change over the last 60 days, 388%. Patrick Ewing, Shaq, you got guys like Karl Malone and Moses Malone and Sean Kemp. Tracy McGrady even. And then you get into other sports like Troy Aikman. You got David Robinson. A lot of these guys who are almost a little bit secondary to the absolute, biggest name guys, they're now all accelerating because the biggest name guys all accelerated. So now we're in this pattern of kind of the other guys accelerating. It's been fascinating to watch, and that's now starting to bleed over into other sports. You're seeing boxing cards that are hot. You're seeing tennis cards that are hot. Golf, Tiger Woods cards, after having crashed a couple of months ago, are now picking back up steam again, really, really heavily. We're seeing it everywhere. And it's fascinating to watch. And I think, people understand that from a long-term investing standpoint, these are the cards that are going to be your safest long-term bets. And while it's fun to try to go chase LaMelo Ball, or even a guy like Trae Young or Michael Porter Jr. or someone like that, we don't know how their career is going to pan out. And we have no idea if any of these guys are actually ever going to go on to, truly be Hall of Famers or not. Whereas we know all of these guys who I just mentioned, I mean, they're there, right? And so I think people are saying like, well, this is a fun way to, to buy cards of guys who are solid long-term investments. And that's what people have concentrated on doing.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm with you 100%. And look, this was astonishing to check out some of these names because, Geoff, I got to be honest with you. Whenever I kind of want to see where the market is trending now, this Sports Card Investor app has got me spoiled because I just pull it up and I go, let me see who's trending right now and just kind of give me a mini feel, and then I can kind of see where I can pivot away. But, man, just pulling up the price movements by player, I mean, this is just fantastic information. I mean, Patrick Ewing, Kevin Garnett. I've got my feel on Kevin Garnett because I know, the Hall of Fame induction is coming. I was shocked I didn't see Tim Duncan on the list, but he's always kind of, I feel like, lagged behind some of the stars, even though he's probably had one of the greatest careers as a power forward. But Tambo, I'm going to get off my soapbox about that. Over to you, my friend. How do you feel about this vintage or let's say retired players with retired superstars explosion?
I got so many thoughts actually, Will, and I'm trying to formulate it the best of my mind to present it because, it's something Geoff just said I want to speak on, and it's something you just said. So, it's fresh in my mind. What you just said was about Tim Duncan. I think this is an opportunity still as well. Obviously, he's on the list somewhere when we scroll down. He's definitely had a resurgence. I've watched it myself. But what's interestingly enough, at the top, it's Kevin Garnett, it's Patrick Ewing, and then there was Shaq. And you got to look at it from this way as well. The markets, right? Boston, where Kevin Garnett got his championship. New York for Ewing, Shaq in LA. These are big card markets, big population markets in the United States that obviously can bring that to the cards and more fans and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying San Antonio's not. It's obviously Texas. My point would be that's one thing I've noticed, and I've been looking for it in other areas to try and dial things in to see where can I find a guy or go whoever it might be. If we're talking tennis, let's say where you can find an area where you can get in on something that then would have a big market to go after. We talked about some of those cards in the past when we talked about Derek Jeter or the Andahars and guys like that. We're just taking flyers on. Even the market is there that we can still sell these cards and sell through them. And then to go back to what Geoff said, and it'll be a good segue when we get to probably the next segment talking about, what do we do now with Modern? But it feels like to me is I think that everyone, I forget, I think it was Hefe who's been on the show with us before in the past who said it today, that everyone just has this natural thing that what goes up must come down. But that he said it much better than I just said it, but what goes up must come down is the thing with gravity. It has nothing to do with financial markets. Things can continue to go up. And so there's the thing that I'm thinking. You may see some of these iconic cards or vintage cards, as we're calling them, balance out a little bit, but the other market can still be lagging where we can still get an opportunity there. And I think where everyone's hoping or not hoping, we're not hoping, but everyone's thinking that this market is going to crash. And they've been saying this for months now, and it has not. And it's actually a lot of cool things coming into the market that are making it go up even further. It's people were starting to take their money out of the Moderns, of the Michael Porter Juniors and the Trae Youngs and all of this to say, at least let me put it somewhere where it's safe, because these guys have already done their thing. But now that leaves a new opportunity in Modern, which I don't know if we're going to segue there yet, but when we talk about it later, keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll just add in, Tim Duncan's cards are up 220%, so he's no slouch.
Ooh, right.
It's not the 300. It's not the 388% of Kevin Garnett over the last 60 days. But I just searched for Duncan in here, and you can see, by the way, all of his different cards. One of the cool things here is if you call up Tim Duncan and expand it, you can see literally all of his different cards and what they've done over the last 60 days. So you can go card by card and see where opportunities might lie. And so if we look at his 97 Topps Chrome base PSA 10 card, one of his most popular cards, 119 sales of that over the last 60 days, you can see that card's up 237%. We can take a look at the graph on that one. I could search for the graph in a minute, and it would, we'd see that story play out. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting way to look at things. But yeah, Tambo, you're right, because what's interesting is if we get rid of Tim Duncan out of our search here, and we go back to let's say the last 30 days, let me redo our search. If we go in reverse order, if we go, instead of looking at the guys who are going to be at the top of the list when this refreshes here, your big name, guys who are just looking at it, if we go in reverse order, by the way, Sean Kemp, #1 in the last 30 days, Troy Aikman too. If we go into reverse order by clicking this a couple of times, it's going to resort it by change percentage. It takes its sweet time here because there's a lot of data, players in the data.
A lot of information. Yeah, exactly.
But you can see the guys who are going to pop up here at the bottom of this list are going to be all modern guys. This is a lot of the rookies like James Wiseman and Obi Toppin and guys like that. But as you get into page 2 or page 3, you're going to start to recognize a lot of the big players from the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, you got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, you got PJ Washington, Landry Shamet. These are some guys who people were making a lot of noise about. And as you get a little further down, you'll even see guys like Zion Williamson. Here's Tyler Hero, for example. You'll see guys like that start to appear in the list. A lot of red around the Modern, whereas there's a lot of the big green gains around the vintage guys.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if you're not investing in Sports Card Investor, what are you doing, people? I mean, this is the information you need to make good business decisions. And speaking of that, because Geoff, I know I reached out to you. I've got an order. I'm shipping up there because I told you I'm going to get some cards graded. That's something else. That's just also next level about Sports Card Investor. Send the cards in. Geoff's got the spreadsheet prepared for you. Super simple, Geoff. So look, I've been collecting cards for a long time, right? And I had the big Ultra sports card book where you have the pages and you lock them in there. Well, I started cleaning through some of that. Now, I'm not done yet, but Geoff, look at this.
Oh, wow. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. You found it. Nice.
Yes. This is a Tim Duncan Topps base rookie.
That's what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I'm going to send it in. And I had a lot of good rookie cards. I've got an Iverson. As a matter of fact, let me see. This is kind of my stack right here. And I know we didn't have mail day, but I do have some vintage in here. Where's my Iverson? Yeah,
Iverson's been red hot. I'm going to bring his Topps Chrome up on the screen.
And that's what I have, Geoff. I've got a Topps Chrome Iverson rookie.
Yeah, watch this thing go crazy. Look at that little gain the last few days in that card, the last week in that card. Incredible. That thing's gone nuts. All of Iverson's cards have been going up like that.
Yeah, incredible. So, ladies and gentlemen, Join us, Sports Card Investor. Here we go. Gonna switch it up here. Now we're gonna go to just top targets, long term, either now or in the future. Geoff, kind of where are you at? I know we just saw the chart and we saw that, you know, a lot of the, let's say, recent players, their prices are going down. Some of the older players like your Iversons, your Duncans, your Garnetts are going up. And man, I gotta think it's just because in my mind I was thinking it was because of the Hall of Fame, but then I looked at football and Barry Sanders was up and Troy Aikman was up and Joe Montana's up. So kind of what's your read long term? Who do you maybe want to target from, let's say, some of the older players and then some of the newer players as those prices decrease? And Tambo, I know you're licking your chops for this one.
Yeah. And you mentioned this software, by the way. This software is Market Movers, and I want to mention that promo code Grinders because make sure you get 20% off if you subscribe. You can go to sportscardinvestor.com, click on Market Movers, and you can see the pricing and everything. And when you subscribe, use Grinders. Make sure you use Grinders for 20% off. I think the opportunity right now is with a lot of those players from the last 5 years or so that whose prices are depressed. I think so much attention and money has shifted to these iconic players over the last few months, and I am not predicting that the iconic players' cards are suddenly going to come down. I don't think that's going to happen at all. Much like Tambo said, there's the opportunity for markets to continue to rise, and they'll probably continue to rise. But what I am predicting is that I do think in the next 90 days, the cards of the new players are actually going to outpace them. We've seen such a great increase from all of these iconic players that now I think you're going to see the attention return to the players who are currently playing. And I think you're going to see their prices roar back over the next 60 to 90 days. There's a lot of reasons why I think that. Everything from the fact that we're going to get towards the playoffs in basketball and NHL. We've got the draft coming up in football. We've got big basketball releases, new sets like Prism and Select that are going to be coming out. We got the baseball season starting. There's a lot of different factors that I think are going to cause attention to shift back in the near future. So in my opinion, your opportunity is to look at guys who are really performing well, yet have seen their card prices decrease. A guy who I love is Donovan Mitchell. His cards are down, believe it or not, over the last 60 days, as so many of the newer guys have been. His play has been sensational. Utah has been sensational. They really look like the real deal. And there's no reason for his prices to be down, right? I mean, I think there's even a guy like Ben Simmons, who I know, he's not lived up to the high expectations that many have had for him, but his cards are cheap now compared to a lot of other people. And yet the 76ers are doing great in the East. Simmons just is coming off of a 40+ point night the other day. You could pick and choose your younger players. And I think there's some real good investment opportunity right now.
Tambo, over to you, my friend.
Yeah, not just with the players, but I wanted to echo it because I mentioned it earlier to Geoff's point. I think he put it beautifully is the fact of what can outpace some of these cards that are at $7,500 now, not saying they won't go up, but if they go to 10, and first off, do you have 7,500 to invest to let it get to 10, or do you have 750 that could get to 1,500? Because that's doubling your money and it's more affordable and there's opportunities of what's upcoming. Geoff mentioned some of the stuff in his video the other day. You guys should check that out. But things like, it was like the 7 reasons why he thinks Modern will bounce back. And I love all of them, but just to name a few, like you mentioned there, the playoff All-Star game, the playoffs, more teams getting in, opportunities of scoring, fantasy. I think even further, I go like, this may be off the board and just, but for me, I'm pretty contrarian in general, thinking outside the box. I think a lot of this Modern got sold off right after Christmas when people had to pay their credit card bills from all the Christmas presents they bought. And that can be true. People need money, so why not get out of it? The Zions, the Lukas, these cards are still worth money. That's what they've got in their hands. They can flip out of it. Not everybody went to icon cards. Some people just had to sell their cards. That's what it is, or thought the market was hot and let's sell them. So that leaves opportunities open. When people have more opportunity, it's summer, it's beautiful weather, we're outside having drinks, hanging out, the playoffs are on. Luka makes it. Look what happened when Luka shot that 3 in the playoffs. All he did was win a playoff game on a hobbled leg, and his card price shot up like $500 overnight. That is the type of stuff that you're going to see happen again. So all of those players, Geoff mentioned it, you can go back a couple more years. I'm going to steal this one from you too, Geoff, because I thought one of your better points, they're all good, but one of the other points you brought up is if you're worried about population count, just go a little bit further. There's still guys you can go back just a couple more years, 16, 70, whatever it might be, and find a little bit less cards out there, and then you can find them graded for cheap right now. Avoid the wait times, avoid everything that goes with that in some cases if you want to get in now and get in while it's affordable, and then wait for the returns to come. They're going to come. Mitchell's the guy he mentioned there. Trae Young. It's like people have went away from a guy because he might not win a lot of games, but he can put up 50 points in a game. They're going to get there down the stretch. They've got a pretty good squad to make a run. Not to the title maybe, but, in my opinion, but just saying they can do some stuff that can bring value to these cards. So there's a lot of guys that you can target still. And to my point earlier, Will, I mentioned just before the show, but almost like the rich get richer, the iconic cards can still go up from 7,500 to 10. We're just saying that if you've got the money to go buy the moderns as well, or you weren't in on those iconic cards, you can still get some pretty dang good returns by getting in on those cards that are cheaper now.
Yeah, for sure, man. Listen, you talk about going back a couple of years. I can't wait to get my hands on a 16, 17, or either 17, 18. I need to go ahead and complete my coaches collection from that set. I'm just kidding. I hate those coaches cards. I don't know why they ever did that. Just
Referee
kidding.
Cards. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. It was just god awful. I don't know why. Well, you know what, though? Now that I think about it, Geoff, this is old school. They were probably taking a page out of the old Hoops and Fleer, because I think they did that for a period of time where they would put the coaches cards in there back in I guess that was late 80s, early 90s, I think. Because I had some coaches cards
Yeah, they put a lot of coaches cards, NBA hoops. Yeah, they were skybox. There were coaches cards throughout those. Every time you opened a pack, you'd end up with a few coaches cards, much to your dismay.
Yeah, tell me about it. All right. So, for me, I think, for me in terms of vintage or current, long term, I mean, as you can see, I've been collecting cards a while. I keep finding new gems out of my notebook. But I think for us, especially for those of us that are getting back into the hobby, I think maybe people from our era are kind of returning back. They're hearing cards on the news. They're hearing cards on ESPN. I mean, I saw a clip. Cam sent me a clip the other day where Grant Hill's doing a card break live on NBA TV. And you sit back and you look at that, and I know this is good for all of us, Geoff. As people from our era get back in the cards, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to go and buy the Iverson that maybe we threw away on the bus because we didn't take care of it at the time. We're going to go and try to get that Kobe because we have more sentimental value in some of these players, like a Anthony Hardaway, like a Shaq. These are the guys we grew up playing. Why not watch those guys? And we may not be as readily available to sell those. We want the card, so maybe we pay a little more for it because maybe we keep it for 10 years. Maybe we keep it for 20 years. I think that's another perspective on some of these older players where, I've talked to some of my friends in the hobby a lot. They like Luka, and yeah, obviously you probably want a Luka card or several Luka cards. Let's go with that because obviously the guy's a stud. But Luka doesn't have the resume that Magic Johnson has. He doesn't have the resume of a Shaquille O'Neal yet. And I'm going to say yet because obviously he's going to make some all-star games. He'll make some playoff appearances. I'm sure they'll get better. Maybe they'll get a piece or two. They were in talks about at one point that maybe Dallas picked up Bradley Beal. And that was over the summer. But obviously they pick up Beal. That team goes from maybe an 8 seed to like a 3 seed easily. So, when trades happen and stuff like that, and who knows, what if Luka changes teams and decides to go be the star in LA? Like, we don't know what's going to happen. So I think that's why, with some of the newer players, you go ahead and buy those cards now, and maybe I hold on to them. Because if Luka wins a championship in LA, or he wins a championship in New York, or switches teams and teams up and creates something like we see in Brooklyn now, suddenly these cards are worth a lot more money as they're on their way to a title, which is why I've been buying so much James Harden recently. I feel like his price has been a lot lower than it should be for a guy that has an MVP, has the scoring titles. All he really needs is a championship. That's it. He's got everything else. So I know Tambo doesn't like Harden as much as I do, but he's definitely a guy I've been kind of buying, slowly but surely, just picking up a piece here or there. And that's kind of where I am. Geoff, any final thoughts before we close it out? Thank everybody for joining us. We're going to take it out here real soon. Geoff, what do you got?
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, when you've got, both the combo of iconic cards, which continue to go up, and you see all of these new people who are getting into the hobby, big name people who are, investing lots of money in those types of cards, that's helping all the prices. And then at the same time, as I said, I think you got a real opportunity right now around the kind of the ultra modern type cars from the last few years for those to go up. So I'm excited. I think we've got a great run ahead of us. And it's fun every day every day I wake up and I check the price movements and market movers, just see what different cards are doing, look at the leaderboard from the last 7 days, see what's happening and see where investment opportunities lie. And there's a lot of opportunity to make money if you have the right data and tools and if you play the market in a savvy way.
Yes, sir. Tambo, final thoughts.
Yeah, what Geoff just said is exactly what I'm thinking, man. You got both categories hitting right now. I just want to hit on the second part though. When you got the tools, that's what it comes down to for me. I like it if it's truly, we call it hashtag the hobby. But if you've got, if it is a hobby too, and you've got some time to put into it in the evenings, maybe your kids if you've got them, or your wife if you got it, or husband if you're into it, it doesn't, whatever you're doing. If you got time to get into the card data and go through it and actually find it, that to me is the fun part. Right? Guys, girls, whatever, whoever into cards, it's the fun part is going in and going through the data, finding out some opportunities, executing on it, making a purchase. There's nothing as fun as that. And then having it arrive, getting to open it, and then going to see it, put it out into play. So for me, a lot of fun with it right now, Will. Lots going both ways. And I think that, it's going to keep getting better. There's a lot of things that are going in the right direction that if everyone out there is cheering for a downfall, I think they're going to be waiting quite a while from everything that I can see going on in the market right now.
Absolutely. And just as you guys were talking, but I got this magical picture in my head, and maybe it doesn't amount to anything. I think as soon as we get off this show, I'm going to start looking back into WNBA Prism because I know it came out and everybody was excited. I got to assume it's down now. I'm probably going to go and start looking for some WNBA Prism, pick up some of the players, like the Sue Birds, the Diana Taurasi, some of those iconic players, get them graded, and let's see what happens. And I am going to keep some of them. For those of you that don't know, I coach girls basketball. So, I do have, some sentimental value to those. But as you were talking, I thought about that. That's probably an area that's a little bit untapped. At any rate, thank you guys for joining us at Cardstock After Lock. Don't forget to go over to sportscardinvestor.com. Promo code GRINDERS. That'll get you 20% off your first payment. I'm Chief. That's Tambo. This is Geoff. See you at the castle next week.